Healing Begins with the Mind, Part 2. Nice cover, Egyptian art. Number 5, Section 5, Observations of Susan. Observations made at various times. Number 1, description. Susan, this is not her actual name, is the mother of Noah. 2, the observations took place at or in the vicinity of University Park and Park Forest, Illinois. 3, the observations took place at various times. Background. As mentioned in the observations of Noah concerning his parentage, his mother was recognized as being gifted in her formative years. Reportedly, she excelled in mathematics and science. When she was about 13, she had an accident in a gymnastics class, and she received an injury similar to what actor Christopher Reeves recently experienced. She was in traction for a while. The spine, or back and or head, sustained injury. She did recover, and as mentioned earlier, she was an honors student sometime during high school. But sometime in her later teens, there were indications of maladjustment, and there are also indications of possible genetic predisposition to disorder. One observation really stands out. On about May 16, 1993, Susan engaged in a conversation about the role of men and women in marriage or in a relationship, and she spoke with absolute confidence, clarity, knowledge, and wisdom. She spoke in a slight British or Australian accent. She was articulate. She was eloquent. And I was really awestruck. I felt that I was in the presence of someone with very high intelligence. I had never before, nor have I since, observed her with that demeanor or presence. Before that time, I had observed her in various stages. Some seemed normal, some seemed disordered. None indicated that she was highly intelligent. One impression about that time was that she was possibly a spoiled brat. I have talked to Susan about that occasion many times. I used to feel that if we could dig this temperament and awareness out of her and keep it at the conscious level, then we could fix the problem that exists here. She has even written a number of responses to my bringing up that matter. Basically, she has said that she does not have multiple personalities. In fact, she consistently denies that she has any problem whatsoever. Here I will give an important observation. All disease or dysfunction is a result of imbalance or the lack of integration within the organism, or it is a result of a lack of balance and harmony with its environment. I still feel that we should have the opportunity, if Susan is willing, to use a method where we would try to unify the mind, unify the body, unify the soul, and unify these aspects with each other, and then unify with unity, that is the Creator, and then to allow the healing energies to flow through the individual, and this could be a partial or total solution to the problem. For to date, the current methods are a dismal failure, and they have been tried for many, many years. The reason they don't work is that the practitioners don't know what they're doing, and they have an incomplete and distorted understanding of human beings. They have been busy, so busy studying rats and lower animals and trying to remake man in that image that they have really missed the boat. Man's true nature is that of an individualized, unified energy field or force. We call it soul or spirit. It is a spark of what we usually call God. This soul or spirit then exists within the flesh, along with another tool which it uses called mind. This force must be kept unified within itself, of mind, body, and soul, and remain unified with God to be healthy. Man has creativity and imagination, and with that and God, he can do just about anything, given the time. Rats and lower animals don't have that capability. Also, the materialist psychologists and their fellow travelers don't understand dreams, visions, time, space, God, etc. And then a lot of them are liars and manipulators. A lot of them are busy trying to make a job for themselves because of the irrational economic system that they live under. So it is no wonder they have very limited success. Anyway, that is a kind of side issue. I've come to know by experience that the problems existing here with Susan are very serious disturbances, and they cover the full range of what we know as mental dysfunction. The symptoms cover the milder forms of neuroses, the psychopathic personality, and the psychoses. They're all there, so I will not list them here. It would be easier to say what is not there. So what are the prospects and what should be done? An observation is that she can be quite normal. However, when she comes under stress, dissociation quickly develops. She quickly falls apart. How can we call up that really composed and intelligent individual that I mentioned earlier? And what is that all about? She feels that her father can and will fix any problem for her and provide her with what she needs or wants. And she feels that he will do whatever it takes to do what she wants. And there's no sense of what is right or what is wrong. It has also been observed that her father asks not whether she's being truthful, but he lets her manipulate him to do her bidding. He has said she really pulled herself together, in referring to an instance where she was engaged in wanton lying about substantive matters to the possible detriment of others. And again, there's no sense of what is right and what is wrong. There also seems to be a propensity by her and maybe another person close to her to rely on chemicals, medicines, etc., instead of trying to get the body to do natural healing and to attain natural balance. She will say that she wants to be independent, but then she makes herself almost totally dependent on her father, and she has a lot of fear and apprehension about displeasing him. One positive factor is that she can be very loving. She can be kind, considerate, and affectionate. But what are the prospects for Susan? It really depends on her. If she doesn't have a conscience and knows what is right and wrong and acts accordingly, then the problem becomes more difficult. It must also be remembered that some people are secure and comfortable where they are in life, and they do not really want to change into a better person. It is important for good mental health for all of us to know on an intellectual and on an experiential level that we are all children of God, all of us. It is important for us to know that we are all important, and we are all important to God. It is important for us to live for others, our children, our family, our fellow man, and God, as well as for ourselves. It is important for us all to forgive everyone for everything. It is important for us all to forgive everyone for everything. Not that we should forget wrongs done, but at any given time, we should forgive everyone and cleanse our conscience. And we should forgive ourselves for everything, and we should cleanse ourselves in that fashion. And we should work for what is right. But we have to know right from wrong to do that. We must fight, struggle, die, but most important, we must live for what is right, and so we must know what is justice or injustice, good or evil, and you must overthrow what is evil, like this current economic and social system, and you must remove the lies, stupidity, and pseudoscience from psychology. You put pressure on the lies and the weak points, and you see how much stress the materialist psychologists can stand before they crack. And you remind them that they lie about God's creation and that we live in a causation world. And you see if they understand. If they sow the wind, they might reap the whirlwind. And it's just about harvest time. And you can have an outrageous amount of courage when you know you are right. So comparatively, fear is defeated. And when you know that the soul is immortal, and it is, who can harm you but the Creator? Let them do whatever God allows them to do with the body. There's even a limit to what can be done against the mind. But you must have faith and trust in our Creator. And you must try to love Him back the way He loves you. And you say, God's will be done on earth and in every aspect of my life. And this will help protect you from unwanted effects. But you must remember, many circumstances you encounter may not be ones you would consciously select. God will help select the conditions for your growth and development. Many of these conditions may seem unpleasant to the ignorant, but they are good for you if you are into growing. And then you can sit back, relax, and watch some fireworks and enjoy your good health. And Susan and people really should know this, and they should try this so we can all be healthy. The next slide is of some African art and Nefertiti. Check it. Number 6, section 6, observations of the author, various. Content consists of various personality inventories or self-analysis. The subject is the father of Noah. As mentioned in the observations of Noah concerning his parentage, his father was recognized as being gifted in his formative years, and he was also an honors student in high school. He has been called very talented because of his writings. Letter A, the MMPI. That's one of the indices that we'll be looking at. The MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, and other indices. This data speaks for itself, and the language, terms, and descriptions are taken wholly from the MMPI 2-volume set. The comment on the L validity scale is instructive. It is a T-score of 56. The description says that these values are likely in test subjects who are ministers, reformers, social activists, or evangelical missionaries. I was called to the ministry on 9/27/1994, September 27th, 1994. The F scale is a 50, and the description indicates conformity and would indicate few deviant beliefs, attitudes, or unusual experiences, and show a tendency to avoid endorsement of socially unacceptable, threatening, or disturbing content among the test items, unquote. My comment would be that that is essentially true. But here are some possible important differences with the materialist psychologists and their fellow travelers. We believe that dreams and or visions can be normal and useful. We believe in and know something about God, as should be the case with all normal human beings. We believe in the dreams of Jacob, in the dreams of Joseph. We believe in the visions of Daniel, for instance, and we believe in the visions of John the Beloved. From experience, I have a certain sense of the reliability of my own dreams or visions, and I also know that my own dreams and visions are in conformity with those of our ancestors that I have just mentioned. And we know that our whole Judeo-Christian Islamic tradition and its real adherents believe essentially as I do. I also say that if the materialists were normal, they also would have dreams or visions, and they would better understand the nature of man. And if they are not normal, they must be dysfunctional and abnormal. And if they don't know anything about God, and He's everywhere, again, the materialists must be abnormal. But I will tell you, if you can try to use an analogy, God is more like the weather, and you cannot stop summer, and you cannot stop winter when it wants to come. You can only adjust to it, and you can study it. And even if you want to study the weather, you better have some respect, and you should realize that God is much higher than the weather. Again, God is like the quarterback and the front four of the 1985 Chicago Bears. He will give you the ball, and He will block for you, and you should stay right there in His back pocket, and you shouldn't try to get ahead of God, for He will surely block for you. And when He gives you the ball, you hold it in tight against you to protect it, and you stay right there in that back pocket until you see some daylight, and then you run like Walter Payton, and you run over, around, or through anyone or anything that gets in your way, and you don't stop until the arms go up and the cheers go deafening, and everyone breaks all out in smiles. Touchdown. Or God is like the jab of Muhammad Ali, and he goes rat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat-tat against the nose of devils. And God has even been known to do an Ali shuffle at times. And when the devils get distracted with the jab or the Ali shuffle, good people must knock the hell out of them. Or on the other hand, good people should keep a stiff left jab in the devil's face, so that when the devils get distracted, God hits them with a Mike Tyson-like uppercut and an overhand right and knocks the hell out of them. So you really shouldn't mess around with God. And when people choose God and choose to do His work and to do the right things, and they become God's chosen, you really should be careful about messing around with them. Here's Mr. Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali. And yes, God is love and grace and all those qualities too. But there comes a time to cut bait, and it is now time to cut bait, to create a world where those qualities will abound in those that are left around. The others will be cut off, and we will give them what they have earned. One of the other problems we have with those materialists is that they lack moral content or direction, and they do not immediately notice and state that an individual opposed to Nazi Germany because of its racism and inhumanity is not necessarily disordered. The direction of the ruling classes is psychotic. And if someone in the former Soviet Union is opposed to its materialism, then he may be healthy because that society was disordered. And if good people do not now stand up in the USA and overthrow this materialistic, irrational, destructive, and evil economic and social order, then they are not healthy. And if they are intelligent enough to be aware of the disorder here and have a conscience and do not stand up for this positive change, they will probably acquire symptoms of disorder. And the first thing that we must do in that process of affecting change is to rely on and call upon our God to make the right changes. Then we will legislate Jubilee and other rational moral precepts listed in Jubilee Worldwide, which see, and the USA will become a place that God Himself will be proud of. On another matter, there's going to be some controversy, but again, our guide is our own experience and our religious documentation. Matthew 11:14 says, "And this I will tell you, is you will make room in your minds that he is that Elias, whose coming was prophesied, in speaking about John the Baptist. Matthew 17:10 repeats this perspective. So does the Quran, but it is done in a different manner. Anyway, I believe in resurrection or reincarnation, and this only means that the soul is immortal. The soul is immortal. Minds semi-permanent, and bodies perishable. See the resurrection of Noah for a fuller explanation. In conclusion, this still makes the validity scales valid. All the remaining material is some true, some partly true, and some not true in the descriptions. Section B, the Myers-Briggs type indicator. This description is essentially true. I would only add that I am significantly introverted and strongly intuitive. I'm also very much the thinking type. Because of my also outgoing nature, it may not be immediately apparent that I am strongly introverted. Section B, C, that is. Section C, whole brain dominance. The individual here possesses whole brain dominance. This means he uses a lot of creativity and imagination. Then he is very, very thinking, rational, logical, so he can organize these concepts or ideas. Next we have African art. Very lovely. It has been observed that the subject here is very fixed, and this is partly true. In some ways, he is very adaptable, very flexible. Much of that is innate. It is like part of the DNA. And much of this has been studied and analyzed in a process where we look at energies. We look at where the power centers are. We look at predispositions. And we correlate this with traditional psychology and other disciplines. We look at how this is used in everyday experience, but again, we see things in an affirmative, positive way. Fixed may be seen by us also as relentless, that is. Fixed may also be seen by us as relentless, solid, stable, consistent, persevering, constant, indomitable, determined, convinced, unwavering, immovable, eternal, etc. In fact, we see the so-called psychologists' excessive use of negatives like overcompensate, overachieve, underachieve, etc. as evidence of the fact that the formulators of such terms are themselves morbid, negative, and unhealthy. Furthermore, we see this ignorant and faulty attempt to judge God's creation as morally wrong and evil. And this may be further evidence that they have been studying rats and other animals too much and trying to remake man in that image. The better perspective to use regarding human beings is that they will often do whatever is necessary to affect a certain outcome. This is because they are made in the image of God and should have creativity, imagination, and reasoning. One of the things that psychology will learn, people can and do attain balance, harmony, and even maturity within a certain personality type. This would be like a rose maturing and blooming as it has been predisposed, and a lily doing likewise in its domain. And so it is ignorant, even evil, to speak of deficits, and speaking of either when they don't become each other. Don't try to make a rose a lily, or vice versa. A rose is very content to be a rose. In other words, a writer may have traits that incline him to develop certain skills that would be different from those of, say, Michael Jordan. And then the basketball player Michael might not quite have the traits to be a star baseball player. Also, bigger is not necessarily better. Psychologists speak in terms of gifted people being larger than others, as if it were a positive in itself. If bigger were better, then the Tutsi of Burundi should be the masters or superiors of us all. And where would it leave the Asians, who are generally smaller in stature than Westerners? Consider a black hole. It is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Even light cannot escape its gravitational strength. So it is concentrated energy. Likewise, human beings or other objects may have beauty, intelligence, charisma, logic, grace, poise, strength, speed, argument, a sense of justice, etc., that just holds us spellbound. So there are many qualities that are attractive and powerful. And these don't necessarily depend on size, unless you are a Neanderthal materialist. We will bet on King David over a Goliath any day. And in the Mississippi Delta, where I come from, we were taught the bigger they are, the harder they fall. So look at the force and power of the individual. What we find is that people choose a body that will be most effective in doing whatever is sought in a particular lifetime. Even if you are too beautiful, it may be a hindrance in a particular environment, and it may distract energies or efforts from what may be more desirable. And a Mahatma Gandhi, for example, will not come into manifestation in the USA in 1965 looking like he did in India and hope to lead the USA very far. Big LBJ was a choice. Lyndon Baines Johnson. And a person who dislikes Americans, for instance, might come here into manifestation looking like the all-American hero, and you will not suspect the traitor until he does his evil deed. So he will just be hiding out in the most unsuspecting body available and waiting for his opportunity. And you will find many Americans like that, for that is why America is now in such a sad condition. So again, this bigger is better is one of the ignorant materialist pseudoscientific notions that will fall by the wayside. Also, with respect to those supposed gifted or genius types, and somebody has tested or ascertained this status, why aren't they aware and doing something about changing this society into a just, equitable, and rational society? Could there be something wrong with the test? When psychology becomes a real science, it will know free will is a birthright or right given to souls throughout the universe. So they have the right of choosing. The purpose of human life is for growth, maintenance, and development. Souls choose, decide when, where, and in what human form they will resurrect in. They decide what ethnic group, nation, community, family, etc. they are to resurrect in. Of course, they would not be doing that on all by themselves. Souls choose an environment to resurrect in which is compatible with their level of development, goals, aspirations, needs, wants, and purposes for a particular lifetime. It is more true that souls choose parents than the other way around. Parents can only invite, souls choose. Souls choose. Part of the lesson here is that even though a soul may have the DNA of the parents, he may choose to be opposed to the values and ideology of those parents because his purposes in that lifetime are in opposition to the purposes of the parents. Souls become what they are. That is, just like a kernel of corn grows into a healthy or weak stalk of corn, it will not, for example, turn into a tomato. A good soul will usually find a way to grow into a good and virtuous person. Of course, the reverse also holds true. A scholar will become scholarly. A scumbag will become what he is, even though he is CEO of a Fortune 500 company, or a priest. The manifestation will reflect the environment. That is, Robin Hood is still an honorable person, though labeled an outlaw. Malcolm X, even with a criminal record, is honorable. The presence of certain kinds or levels of intelligence may actually interfere with the usage of the God link, which we call Christ, because choices made by that individual are in opposition to the Christ principles of sharing, caring, justice, courage, etc. An example of this may be the sociopath and the psychopathic personality, cowards, the selfish, etc. Many events that happen to individuals are really blessings in disguise. When I got hay fever at the age of 22, I turned to yoga, and it's helped create the experiences and state of mind to perform my mission in this life. When FDR got polio, he learned perseverance, courage, a fighting spirit, and empathy for those with problems and difficulties. Look at King David. Look at JFK and his back injury. Look at Martin Luther King Jr. Again, if the psychologists want to learn something about people, the first thing that they must learn is that people are all children of God, and they will often do whatever it takes to affect a certain outcome. Section D, Introduction to Dreams and Visions. Dreams reflect past or future conditions. Whenever dreams meet the present, they end. Dreams can be organized for greater clarity or realistic, vivid reflection by one being more truthful, especially to oneself, and living a more healthy, productive life. Practicing meditation will also increase the clarity and lucidity of dreams and visions. Visions in healthy individuals are levels of experience, sometime during the sleep state or semi-sleep state, but may be more possible when the mind and body have attained a certain amount of rest or relaxation. Unlike dreams, where sometimes one knows that he is dreaming, in visions one is then and there conscious of the experience of the vision. Depending on the state of the individual, visions may contain high levels of energy. The subject matter of visions here, just like conscious experiences, cover a wide spectrum. They may involve objects, people, events, or places, and they may involve taking part in activities. When there is greater energy, there is usually greater clarity and or understanding of what lessons are to be learned. But many experiences here, just like conscious experiences, have apparent limited usefulness. And like dreams, visions seem to only reflect past or future events. Visions seem to be a more direct interaction with what we would call spiritual forces, because even though in a kind of sleep state we are conscious, and there is always the presence of moving, and there is always the presence of moving energies, the prophets generally describe these as winds or seeming moving flames, etc. Dreams and visions are a reminder that we are all like our Father God, for we were made in His image. He is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. He is time, He is timeless. We live and have our being in Him. We are part of Him. If we are righteous in dreams or visions, we experience wondrous things. We can learn things that have escaped our conscious notice. We can have confirmation of beliefs. We can see the possibility of future events. Section E, Time, Space, and God. These aspects are more fully dealt with in the section What's on Your Mind, which C. In closing, The evolutionary level of individuals will be reflected by heredity and their environment. But souls have chosen environments and DNA options, bodies that correspond to what they are and what they want or need to accomplish in a particular lifetime. There is much that is useful in psychology and psychiatry, but much of the theories and ideas are like those of someone partially colorblind and just entering puberty, but deciding what imagery, love, and life are all about. Freud, Jung, and Adler are examples. Freud contributed much, but even Jung and Adler were more advanced in many ways. Jung may have been the more advanced, but Jung himself was not whole or integrated within himself, apparently, and that is why he did so poorly in finding real solutions or getting a full understanding. So the mind sciences need to become focused and grow up. We should recognize that while left or right brain dominance may be useful for concentration or rigorous specialization, they probably can't see the big picture. And we must start with the basics. I have discussed these in What's on Your Mind, that section. And we must approach the study of God's creations with proper respect, which is not the case now. The motivations must be correct. Then I believe that good, healthy, normal people with normal or above intelligence, with whole brain dominance, possibly the mother of all brains, and O positive blood, possibly the mother of all blood, and unity within themselves can find better solutions to whatever problems we have, because the DNA might be quote unquote better. I believe people with unity can often use this skill beyond the intellect, or what we call insight or intuition, in a conscious or dream state. It seems to be a more direct interaction with what we call the Christ link. And when it is the higher mind, it is the truth or God. It will make perfect sense. It will be rational, logical, just, beautiful, obvious. So we should locate and make maximum use of people who have these qualities. Finally, it should be noted that the author has practiced a variation of yoga since 1971, and this has affected the quality or clarity of his dreams and or visions. Prospects? We shall see. And this is the end of this part of Healing Begins with the Mind. Subscribe to my channel and stay tuned.